I'm calling the meeting to order.
I can't hear anybody. Is that,
I'm sorry.
am I the only one?
I think it's you, Larry.
Okay, well. Are we all set?
Yeah, my audio's on. I actually have a new device and I've had some trouble with it, so this doesn't surprise me. We had tried it
Right.
and it did function. So let me, I might have to get my IT here.
We can hear you.
I'm gonna change speakers.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to hop out and I'm gonna do a restart. So if you can carry on without me, that's great. If not, then
Yeah,
let
we
me
can.
see how quickly I can get this resolved.
Okay, well, why don't we get the meeting started? We can skip the introductions because everybody knows everybody. So we can move on to the
I'll
approval.
actually pause. We do have one of our interns joining us today. She's off camera on Sarah's device if we wanted to still do introductions.
So can we can't see her, can we? Oh, okay. I see everybody. Okay. Well, we can go through, introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm Ethel Manzares and I'm chair. And then Joe, you're next.
How's it going? I'm Joe Chicky. I'm the Mansfield resident trooper. Nice to meet you.
And Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Gerard. I'm our family assistance manager for Favor.
And Henry.
Hello, I'm Henry. I'm a student at EO Smith.
Okay. And Pat. And Sarah. And Laurie, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Laura Wright. I'm the user of the youth services.
All right, good. And Larry, you want to introduce yourself to the new intern? Larry? Yeah. I think Larry's still having problems, huh? Well, why don't we get started and we'll let Larry, figure out.
Well, I'll have Chelsea introduce herself.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Chelsea. I'm a senior in UConn. I'm interning at the youth service. And I'm looking forward to be here today.
Good. Well, welcome. I hope you enjoy your internship. Okay, moving on. Have you all had a chance to look at the minutes? Are there any additions or deletions? There being none, I'll entertain a motion for acceptance.
Motion to accept them.
Can I have a second? Okay, Laura seconded it with a wave. All right, moving on to reports. Katie, you want to start?
Sure. So our update from January is we have some pretty low numbers from January due to some staff absences, due to some weather issues that have come up, and just other things that changed service delivery. So mother-daughter group didn't end up meeting between staff illness and inclement weather. My Pride didn't meet because of the scheduled meeting conflicting with the town's distribution of masks, and then the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. So we have some lower numbers in terms of our positive youth development groups that happened. We were still able to meet with My Voice for the scheduled 2 times. We had kind of lower numbers to start, which we had been seeing at the end of the year, but we've seen a return of our crew en masse and excited for that project that they're working on. So that was good to see. And certainly our counseling and case management, we've, gotten continuous referrals, intakes, and kind of still seeing our families through all of the ups and downs that January has brought. Sarah still is getting really good numbers in her virtual out of the blue support group for new moms, which has been awesome to see that continue to take off and do well in that virtual format. The other big thing starting in January is you've met Chelsea. So Chelsea is our HDFS intern from UConn. She is being supervised by Sarah Dufresne. So she's got a half-year internship with us. And Sarah, if you want to share a little bit about some of the things that Chelsea's going to be working on for this.
Sure, of course. So one of the biggest things that she's going to help with is we, due to just crazy shortages at UConn and not really knowing about the students, our lunch groups moved to being virtual. So we're doing an arts and crafts group after school versus being there in the school during lunch. So instead, we're going to have staff there during lunch, kind of still providing lunch activities, social emotional learning activities. So Chelsea is going to help lead those groups, 2 of the groups at the elementary schools on Mondays and Tuesdays, where we will still have a very excited group of 8 to 10 kiddos who want to do activities while they eat their lunch. So she's going to help facilitate those activities and also help run those groups. And she will also be working one-on-one with a MMS student after school on Tuesdays to provide just some support to a kiddo who's in a special education classroom that could really use the one-on-one mentorship. And she's also helping me do a ton of other tasks like preparing for a springtime event. She's helping me organize for that because my head tends to be all over the place and just normal stuff around the office, learn a lot about the grants, kind of learn what we do in each facet of our different positions. So it's really nice to have her here. She's only here for 8 hours. It never seems like enough, but it's always great having interns.
Oh, good. So Katie, is that your report? Are you all done?
Sarah touched on some of those pivots and changes that we're making in light of anticipating that disruption to our in-person availability of volunteers. So that's certainly been a big piece of what January has looked like, is kind of pivoting those programs to kind of the virtual after school and then the lunchtime groups in school. And then Kelly McKenney is also expanding her social skills groups to all 3 elementary schools this coming semester. She had done a trial run at Southeast and it had gone well, and the other schools have been interested in having her come in and do some targeted social skills groups. So those targeted social skills groups are kind of more based on school figuring out who would maybe most benefit from them, whereas the Grub Club groups that we're running instead of COPE are really more of a universal offering for youth in the grades that would have been served by COPE. So we still have kind of some universal options in person during the school day, as well as some kind of more targeted interventions that'll be happening for the rest of the year. So we're kind of doing our best scheduling jigsaw to make it all work, and all hands are on deck. And then the other, big update from January that we saw many of you at is we have officially oriented our restorative diversion team. So the Willington, Ashford, Mansfield restorative diversion team has been oriented. Our memorandums of agreement have been signed by Willington, Ashford, and Mansfield so that we are eligible to start taking referrals. None have come so far, but we are eagerly awaiting our first referrals for that diversion team and excited to be a part of the diversion work in Connecticut. So I think those are my big updates, and I'll check out and hand it over to Pat.
Thank you. Pat?
As far as overall in human services, we are awaiting the people who are applying for the agencies that are applying for our agency grants. Those applications should be in by the end of this week. The Human Service Advisory Committee, which Ethel chairs and represents youth services on, will be reviewing those grant applications and making recommendations to the town manager and the town council in their meeting later in this month. The budget process is moving along. Right at this point, it's really with the town manager and finance, where they're pulling all of the budgets that were presented to them together from different department heads, getting that budget ready to present to the council, which will happen next month. Yes, Ethel?
Pat, have you gotten any feedback on Larry's letter that we sent off?
I have, in the sense that it was a major part of the discussion during my budget presentation. Because as you know, I think you know that I presented it as a service enhancement,
Right.
an additional position. So that did become part of that discussion, which was very helpful, and again, as it moves forward, keeping those lines of communication open with the people who make the decisions will be important. So it was a great letter, by the way. It was very well put together. So, each of the council members plus the town manager got a copy of that. So
Yeah, Larry did a great job, I thought. Thank you, Larry.
It was our letter. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Yes, we can
Okay,
now.
good.
Good.
It was our letter. We all
Okay.
had an influence and penned that together. So
Good. It was a good letter. Did you
just
does it look favorable at all?
Well, that's hard to say because that will be easier for me to say as it's moving along. Right now, they're just in the process of pulling everything together. The other part is, I think many of you know that the final ruling on the ARPA funds came out. And so there's been a little bit of reconfiguration. Human Services certainly has a couple of projects, as well as a cooperative project with the school system that Kelly and I presented in the hopper. Right now, we're being asked to get the appropriate language from the final ruling. Town council has some choices to make because there actually is a way that they could just choose to take, they're under $10 million and they could choose to just take the money because of the amount and then make decisions versus going, jumping through all the hoops you do with ARPA. But that would be the town council's decision. It still will mean that they'll be looking at all of these options. So if you're interested in what's been presented so far, those are available in back council meeting. But, our things do fit very well in because they have to do with two areas. One is mental health and the other is food insecurity. And those are right in the ARPA grant. So, but anyway, I will say there's been a little bit more clarification for agencies that may be thinking of applying for some when the town opens, because I'm assuming the town's going to set aside money for agencies. They really need to be dealing with some of those goals too. They can't just be general grants that are given to agencies. They're going to have to list a service or a lack of funds that they received specifically. So that's going to be, and I know that it very much appears that the Human Service Advisory will be very involved when those applications come forward. The good thing is the town will have, I think it has 3 years to spend the money. So they're not really rushed to get that money out the door. They have some time to think about what makes the best sense and what will benefit the community altogether. But anyway, if you're interested, there's a lot out there right now in the final ruling. It's about 400 pages, by the way, if you're looking for some light reading at night sometime when you're trying to fall asleep.
Get right on it.
Possibly. But so that's out there, and that's another project that I've been working on. The other nice thing is we've gotten the town has gotten another disbursement of the test kits. So and Human Services have got a portion. Some also went to some different agencies out there in the community, the business community, particularly those who service vulnerable people. Ours is still a targeted donation, a targeted distribution in the sense that we're trying to reach people who are higher at risk and have less ability to access those test kits. The two people that are taking the lead on those distributions are Kathy Ann from the social service side, and Jamel Figueroa, who is our outreach worker in the senior center. But we're really looking for families, individuals that are at risk. That could be direct service workers, quite frankly, people who take public transportation, someone who takes care of someone who's higher at risk. And we're really looking to find people who didn't get also in the last distributions and have a harder time from a financial perspective accessing. So please, if you're concerned about anybody, you can send that you can certainly contact me and I can pass that along. Or if you have any questions, some have gone out, I believe, or are going out to the faith community as well. So which, the houses of worship and the faith community for distribution for some of those people that we may miss because they might not connect with one or another of our offices.
So are you helping folks who don't have access to computers to order to apply for the federal free test?
Yes, we are in two ways. One, we have direct access here. So does the library to computers to do that. And the other is we have devices with hotspots that people can check out here at the senior center, and so does the library. Okay. So we're a site where we'll help people, a site where we have a computer access that someone can come in and use. And we have hotspots and devices that people can check out. So the answer to that overall is yes. When we were talking to the CBG person, he was very impressed that the town really was going above and beyond to assist people who have lack of technology.
Good. Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions for Pat before we move on? Okay. Old business sector reports. Katie?
Does anybody have any updates from the work that they're doing, things that they're seeing, any new trends, concerns, worries that are coming across folks' desks in the past month or so?
The only thing that I can add, and this is from youth themselves, and I'd like, if Henry is comfortable, him to weigh in as well as what he's seeing and hearing. But I've had youth coming to me in droves, concerned about their peers that are utilizing vaping and then alcohol and looking for support. They don't want to be, in their terms, a narc, and to tell an adult, I guess I'm not an adult, which that I'm okay with, but they don't want to tell a school staff or teacher because they feel like it'll just snowball. But they're looking for supports on how they navigate that and how they help their peers do some of that and get the help that they need. So that's been across the region, but as well as Mansfield. That's what I'm hearing is a lot of just youth concern for their peers using and not having, either they don't know the resources that are out there for their peers or just navigating that social complexity of what that entails. So I'd like, if Henry, if you're comfortable, I'd like to hear what you're saying, what you're hearing and seeing as well.
Yeah, so first off, I don't know any of the statistics or anything, but one thing I have noticed is that vaping was at an all-time high right before the pandemic. But since then, the pandemic kind of helped stop it. But recently, I've also noticed that it's coming back a lot. Just earlier today, I was going to go to the bathroom before class. Then I saw 8 other people walk into the bathroom. So I decided I'm just not even going to go in there. I know what's going on. I'll just do my thing later. So yeah, I think that it's an issue and it's getting worse at the moment.
Yep. I'm not waving at you. I'm waving to turn my lights back on.
Thank you, Henry. I just want to give you space since you're living and breathing it in the moment. So thank you for being brave enough to share that. Yeah, that's on point with what other youth are coming to me as not the grown-up, are telling me, so.
Oh, good. Hmm. So why did it slow down with the pandemic? Was that because they couldn't get it, Henry, or?
I have no idea why. I'm not really involved in that personally.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know why. That's just what I happen to notice.
Yeah,
Was
okay.
that because in the bathrooms, it reeks in there. I just noticed it wasn't as bad for the past like year. And all, yeah, I just didn't really see it as much during the pandemic, the height of it.
Okay, thank you.
So I wonder if it has something to do with schools were virtual for a while during the pandemic, so it was better hidden. And now that they're back in person or hybrid or whatever they're doing, but most folks are back in person, that there's more of that. And then there's that social piece too, and factoring in peer pressure and all of that. So, and then the legalization of marijuana and all of that, all of that mess that is going on behind the scenes as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think Lisa hit the nail right on the head. That I think that sums it up pretty well.
So Larry, you're not seeing any of that in the middle school, are you?
We haven't had cases this year, and I would, we've had issues. We're not a high school, so we see less of that.
Yeah.
We had issues prior to the pandemic starting, so I think I would agree with Henry that regionally we probably saw some increases and then a drop off. We just haven't seen that increase. Now, two things to that. We haven't seen that in a formal capacity. It doesn't mean it's not happening to students of our age, whether it's out in the downtown area or elsewhere. We haven't seen signs of that in our bathrooms or whispers of that with students, but I'm not naive to believe that it's not impossible to happen. So, but we just haven't had to deal with that, luckily.
Okay, good. Does anyone else have anything they want to comment on, or?
Yeah, I just want to add that, when Danielle and I started the PSA group that was an anti-vape campaign, when we did that 2 years ago, right before the pandemic, when we started that group with middle schoolers and we asked them on the first day, what is vaping? All of them were like, we have no clue. And this time around, when Katie and I asked, 2 years later, what is vaping? A lot of them knew, and just the awareness is there and it's out in the community more. So I think this generally, it's just increasing, Lisa. And yeah, I bet that being virtual had something to do with, less access to it. Thankfully, Katie and I are still running that PSA group called My Voice, and we are focusing on anti-vaping, and we're also focusing on safe marijuana, anti-marijuana for under 21, but also just making children aware that just because it's legal doesn't mean it's safe for them at any age, which is the huge thing that we're focusing on this year. So stay tuned, because as those wrap up and we actually create our PSAs and our public service announcements regarding it, these are middle school students, so it will be a lot of stuff geared right towards that age group to show that it's, you shouldn't do it. So,
okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to new business, the Sustainable Initiative.
Sure.
Katie?
So everybody has the brochure in the email for the Sustainable Connecticut. It's a joint initiative that the town of Mansfield has participated in previously and been very successful with, had been awarded, I believe it's the silver level. I think we affectionately call it the Mansfield level because it is a very high level in the program. So they are in the midst of the reapplication for that. So if anybody is interested in coming to that joint committees, boards, commissions meeting tomorrow evening with the Sustainable CT work group. Folks are invited. I can resend the link. Just let me know if you would like it. It's happening via Zoom at 7 o'clock tomorrow. And one of the things that they are asking all of the different boards and advisory committees to do is to take a look at, I think it's like the second or third page of that 3-page brochure that has the list of different interventions that towns can receive points for. So one of the things that I've done is just kind of gone through to see what jumps out at me on things that the youth services work group does help do in terms of townwide initiatives, and even just within our own kind of work group together, to be able to share that with the joint meeting tomorrow, so that, you know, if they need additional information from us, they can include that. But I just wanted to read out the things that I had highlighted in case anybody else had gone through and there might be things that they think I missed. Or they say, no, Katie, you guys don't do that, because I'm open to, you know, that feedback too, of course. So some of the things that I do have us listed as youth services service area participating in is participating in equity training. We have all been doing that, you know, really heavily, more so in the past 2 years. And, you know, we've been able to, I think, almost all of us at least participate in some form of the school-based equity training that had gone on in the summer, and then some shorter ones that had been going on since the first kind of class of that. So that is something that YSB continues to participate in, and be really thoughtful in how we conduct our services, as well as being available for, you know, any feedback that folks might have if they're looking to get suggestions. The other thing is holding a sustainability event, which Sarah is actually in the midst of working her Martha Stewart magic on. And maybe she can say a little bit about what schemes are up her sleeve with that. And then I'll run through the rest of the list, and then we'll jump over to the sustainability event that we're really excited about. So the other things that I have listed is provide effective community communications with inclusive engagement and communication and education. So looking at, you know, even the community update that Sarah sends out in that very email-based way. So it's not print, it's not, you know, anything that's creating waste, but it has a lot of subscribers who are looking for local things to do, keeping things local, and it often highlights local businesses and sustainable opportunities. Collaboration with other municipalities is something that we officially have now rubber stamped with the Diversion work group through youth services. I know there are a few other things that exist in a regional capacity townwide, but certainly the Diversion collaboration is one that is worth highlighting, particularly as it pertains to equity as well. And then the last one that I have highlighted before I invite Sarah to talk a little bit about the sustainability event is encourage healthy and sustainable food networks. So Sarah is just queen of all things sustainable, and a lot of those initiatives kind of have grown organically, pun very intended, from MAC. So the Taste of Mansfield work group actually came from a MAC initiative, and they had gone forward and gotten some grant to be able to do that local processing of locally sourced vegetables and things like that into the school lunches. Sarah is also running a gardening group that she can say a little bit more about for the rest of the school year. But really just recognizing that we also in human services have the Farms to Family program that we're doing. So there is a lot of sustainable work that is happening around food networks. And so those are the ones that I had jump out at me and highlighted. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to look through the brochure and say like, oh, like our youth services crew does this all the time. But if not, I will turn it over to Sarah.
Hello. So yeah, the food program that I connected with the Garden Club at MMS is actually kind of it sprung from a Taste of Mansfield meeting, and I actually was discussing it with Kelly Lyman, and she had the idea of utilizing the greenhouse at the middle school and working with their existing garden club to grow food that could then be used in the lunches. So I reached out to the food director, Stephanie Richard, and she was 100% on board. And she kind of gave us a list of the foods that she could use, and they have a way of flash freezing them. And again, it was really easy for them from the standpoint where they already buy from local farms. Since we're growing them locally, she could, fill out that paperwork and we could utilize that food right in their lunches. So that will be a really neat way that we're giving back. And another thing that we're doing in this garden club is we have partnered up with Ginny Walton, who is our recycling coordinator in the town of Mansfield. And she's also very passionate about the pollinator pathway, which is planting native plants in this area that are good for local pollinators. So another thing that we're doing in this garden club is we're growing a ton of pollinator seeds that will then be able to be dispersed at a sustainability event in spring. So as of right now, the event is in the works of being created, but I want to have a lot of different organizations there. We're looking to have, composting demos. People can pick up compost bin kits. We're going to have these plants available for sale. We're looking to do a sports equipment swap. So a lot of times kids grow out of their old sports equipment and need new sizes. So instead of parents having to buy new sizes, they can come on that day and swap sizes. We're also looking to have members from the Buy Nothing Mansfield Facebook group be there. So they, at our last in-person egg hunt, they did a book giveaway, which was super popular, where kids could go and they had a bunch of books that were donated that children of any age could come in and pick however many they wanted. And it was really cool. So that is in the works, and we are just looking for lots of different community organizations to spread awareness on sustainability, but also, get the community outside and together and really promote all the fun stuff that we do in Mansfield for families. And then the other thing that we're trying to do is the egg hunt itself, which is a hugely popular event here in Mansfield in its own right, is not extremely sustainable. We're giving away these little plastic prizes and plastic wrappers. So it's really kind of created us to take a new look at how we can make that more eco-friendly, but still be really appealing to kids of all ages. So that's what this spring event will entail. I created a community survey last week and actually asked for parent input on the type of events that they would like to see. And we got some really, really great ideas of things that are possible to do that are very low waste. So stay tuned. It's a wonderful way just to kind of get that community involvement, but also really do what we do out of this office, which is to appeal to those kids of all ages and families and kind of work with all of our community organizations.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes, Deborah.
Hi, sorry I was late. On that note, I don't know if you're aware that we have a garden club in town, the Mansfield
Yes.
Garden Gate. Right. I'm the president. and
look at these community connections. This is wonderful.
Involve us, and there's a couple of ways to involve us. And obviously we're aware of the pollinator pathways, and we've done a lot of promoting of planting native plants and whatnot. But we also are a source of plants for sale or giveaway.
Love it.
So as this progresses, when you know your date or whatnot, it wouldn't be that difficult for us to come up with several or many more trays of plants that could be sold and or given away.
Yes, that's perfect. Because out of all the responses that I've gotten so far, and I have about 40 of them, which isn't a lot, but it kind of is because most people don't answer those surveys ever. Almost 95% of them were interested in plant sales. So that was a huge draw for the community, was to have these local plant sales. So I will 100% email you on that and let you know what I have working. Thank you, Deb. That's great.
That's good. Yeah. Very good. Okay, moving on. Any other business anybody wants to talk about or bring up, or any issues? Okay, how about public comment? I don't think there's anyone here for public comment.
We don't have anyone here from public comment, but I did want to share the email that we did get from the Region 19 superintendent when she had reached out to get some information from her counseling staff as a follow-up to the letter that we shared with town council. So I did want to share what they had shared with us, with our board, as we move forward and navigate if we'll be able to get additional staffing, which is always an exciting opportunity. So she writes, "Hello, Katie. This is a response from my mental health and counseling staff. Thank you so much for what you are doing, and don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything you need from me." And then this is the forwarded correspondence. "Hi, Sharon. This is what we came up with as a launching point. We are available to discuss further at your convenience. Thanks, Shannon, Karen, and Renee." And then they list the service advisory needs of EO Smith. And it's a bullet point style list that reads: in-person sessions after school hours, individual, clinical manifestations, including substance use, screen time, game, phone addiction, social isolation, emotional distress, truancy, family relational struggles, and counseling sessions individually and leading potentially to group sessions if client fit is there. For a family focus, looking to work with the student on how to express themselves with family members, supported and facilitated by a clinician. Parent sessions to educate and develop understanding of challenges students face, parental role in student positive development, and psychoeducational sessions. And then the last bullet point for family focus is potential connection to medication provider when appropriate. The next bullet point list is partnership with newly soon to be established JRB/WAM RDT. And then another large bullet point for community education around the issues of mental health struggles, drug and substance use, and pros and cons of screen time and social media.
Okay, thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. And our next meeting is on March the 8th at 12. So can I have a motion for adjournment?
Yep, motion to adjourn.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for
Thank
showing.
you. Nice to see everyone.
Yep, everybody have a nice
Everyone,
month.
thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks a
Bye.
lot, guys. Bye-bye.